Resourceful Designer, episode 65, Evaluating Your Graphic Design Business.
Welcome to the Resourceful Designer podcast, offering solutions to streamline your graphic and web design business so you can get back to designing.
And now your host, he spent $400 for a domain name he really wanted. Mark Dickow.
Welcome to another episode of Resourceful Designer. I am so glad that you've joined me today. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, where have you been? No, seriously, if this is your first time tuning in, thank you very much for checking it out. I am happy for you to join me as we discuss running your graphic design business. Now, I have a great episode planned for you today. I actually got the idea for this episode as I was looking through my folder with all my past episodes, 64 episodes that I've put out of Resourceful Designer, and I was looking at the different titles of past shows. Because in all honesty, after a while, you start to forget what you talked about in past episodes. So I was going over the titles, and I started noticing a few that kind of like piqued my interest again, and I started coming up with the idea of running a graphic design business evaluation, and how a lot of those topics could play into that. So I kind of joined a bunch or gathered some ideas from all those to come up with this topic, and I'm very excited to share it with you today. Now, I have to admit, I know this is a great episode because I've already done it once. I just finished recording this entire episode a little while ago, and after being done, I looked down at my digital recorder and it was off. It ends up that the batteries in it, I use rechargeable batteries, and when I started, it showed that I had 2 out of 3 bars left on the batteries. But if you know anything about rechargeable batteries, whenever they decide it's time to die, they die quickly. It's not like regular batteries that kind of slowly lose powers. Rechargeables, when they're going strong, and they're dead. And even though it started off showing me that there was 2 bars out of 3 available, I guess it wasn't enough. And about 15 minutes into recording, it must have stopped because that's all I got. So this is my second time recording. So hopefully I got all the bugs out from the first time around, and it'll be a much better episode because of it. Who knows? I guess only I will, because you never heard the first one. Oh, the joys of podcasting. Well, speaking of joys, I've had some really great things happen this week. I've got a couple of really good jobs. One of them is a scorecard for a golf course that I do these scorecards every few years. They're usually good. They have enough printed to last them a few years. And the owner of the golf club or golf course called me up earlier this week and said, Mark, it's time. Let's redo a couple of the scorecards. It's a 36-hole golf course, so they have multiple cards that they use depending on how you play the different 9 holes available. So it's a fun job to work on, and I'm having a lot of fun revamping the look from the last one and coming up with something new. Now, on another note, I lost an old website that I had designed. It was actually one of the very first websites that I designed. It was for my very first web design client, but it was actually a second website. It was for a girls softball league here in the area. And the first client I'd ever designed a website for, he was on the board of directors. He was actually the president of the club, and he had hired me to design this website. Now, this was back in 2006, 2007, and the website was never updated since. And I keep telling him over time and again that, it's so old, it needs to be done. It's being held together with, as I would tell him, with bubble gum and Band-Aids. There's so many fixes that have been done over the years to it. But finally, I guess he's no longer on the board. They've got a new president, and he called me up and he told me that they are going to be moving the website. They're taking over. They've got somebody on their board of directors now who is a web designer. I actually know her. She's a good web designer, and she offered to take over the website and build them a brand new website. So I was actually very happy not to lose the client, but just to know that they're finally going to get a new website, because it was a case back in 2006 or 7, whenever I had built it. I was very proud of the website. It was, innovative for back then. But now I don't want anybody to know that I did that website because it looks so old. So I'm very happy that that one's going to be revamped, even if I'm not the one doing it. But easy come, easy go. And I know they don't have the budget. They weren't going to be able to hire me to do it. They don't have the budget. They can't afford me to redo it. So I'm happy to let that one go, and it'll be in good hands. And as I said, I won't have that one kind of looming over me in case somebody stumbles across it and says, oh, that's a website Mark did? Ooh. So anyways, that's what I've been up to this week. Now, I want to mention the Facebook group to you. If you're not a member of the Resourceful Designer Facebook group, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/group and request to join, and I will let you in. Now, we've had some great conversations in there. Recently, what we've been doing is I asked people to post if they have a Facebook page for their graphic design business. I've asked them to post a link to their page. And it's great. We've got tons and tons of people posting their pages there. And I love it because we get to go see. We've been interacting with a lot of these people over the last couple of months since I launched this group. And now we get to go in and see what some of these people, what they're capable of, their skills and their expertise. And it's great to get to know these people, get to see what they can do. And it really makes the group that much closer. So if you're not already in the group, or if you are in the group, please go share. If you do have a Facebook page for your graphic design business, please share it in that post. And if you're not already part of the group, I encourage you to join resourcefuldesigner.com/group, which will redirect you to the page where you can just click on the join button. And once I get the notification, I'll go and approve you, and then you're in. Now, this week, I'm going to share another tip of the week. As I mentioned, resources are running a little thin because after so many episodes, I'm starting to run out. It's not that I'm running out, but it's just hard to think of them. Every once in a while, I'll come up with something. I'll go, oh, that's something I've been doing or something I've been using for a long time. Why haven't I shared that with the podcast community? I should write it down. But to be honest, there hasn't been any of those aha moments in quite a while. So in the meantime, I'm going to be sharing a few tips with you. And this week's tip is, when it comes to stock photo sites, my tip is make sure you search multiple sites for the images you're looking for. Now, the reason I say this, and it sounds like, yeah, well, of course I look at multiple sites, but the reason I'm stating this is there are some sites out there where the different subscription models, not where some of them you might pay via credits, and it might only cost you maybe 1 credit per photo, and maybe the credits cost you $1. So you're paying $1 per photo, which is great. Other sites, you will pay a yearly fee. Maybe you pay $50 a year, $100 a year, and you could download as many photos as you want. But then there are other sites where either you're using credits or subscriptions that allow you to download so many photos. And when you calculated it out, the photos might cost you $5, $10, $20, $50, hundreds of dollars. Who knows? Now, it's those sites that I'm talking about. And every once in a while, I'll go out looking for photos and I can't find something, and I'll come across a photo on one of these more expensive sites. And sometimes it's the perfect photo for what you need for the project, depending on what your project is. If you can't hire a photographer, stock photography is the only other option you can go. And some clients can't afford the photographer. So if you're going to use stock photography, you look around for the perfect photo. Now, I just wanted you to be warned that some of these higher priced stock photo sites, even though they say that the photo is exclusive to them, that none of their photos you will find anywhere else, that doesn't necessarily mean you won't find a similar or possibly an almost identical photo on a cheaper site. And this happened to me just recently. I was working on a project and I needed a photo of a campground with a tent and a fire and a lawn chair, and a nice campground, wilderness campground. And there was very specific things I was looking for. It had to be a certain type of tent. Anyways, won't get into the details, but I found this perfect photo, exactly what I was hoping for. It couldn't have been better if I had gone to take the photo myself. And it was on one of these sites, and the photo was going to cost me roughly about $50 because it was one of these higher priced photo sites. And I was thinking, you know what, if the money's in the budget, I can go ahead and buy this. But after finding that, I started going to look at a few other sites and looking at the keywords from the photo on the site I found. I entered similar keywords, and I was able to find on one of the other sites, it was one of the sites where I pay a yearly membership and I could download as many photos as I want. I actually found a photo by the same photographer at the same campsite, same angle. The camera was set up the same. The only difference between the two photos is on the expensive photo site. In the shot, the axe, there was a small hand axe that was inside. It was somebody had hit it into one of the logs near the fire. So the axe was sticking up there and it looked really nice. On the cheap site where I could download it for free because I've already have a membership there, the axe wasn't in the log. The axe was leaning up against a tree. And that was the only difference in the photo. So the expensive site was able to say that this photo is exclusive to them, that no other website in the world has this photo. And that's true. But I was able to find almost the identical photo. The only difference was the axe was in a different position on another site. And I managed to download that one. Yes, I liked the photo with the axe that was stuck in the log better, but really, was it worth $40 for that as opposed to the axe leaning up against the tree? In the long run, it didn't really make a difference. So I got the one that it didn't cost me anything extra. So that's my tip of the week is if you are looking at some of these sites, and some of these sites have beautiful photos, but they are a little bit more expensive, just be wary that some of these photographers might be offering those same photos or very similar photos on some of the cheaper websites. Now, I remember there was a time going back 5-10 years ago, or maybe even not that far back, where there were certain stock photography sites that were really, really good, beautiful photos. And most of the others, you could tell they were more amateur photos. They weren't as good. The lighting wasn't as great. The composition wasn't as great. They might be cheaper, but you could tell that they were cheaper quality photos. Well, nowadays, things have really changed. And where everybody has, I mean, you could take awesome photos with just your mobile, your smartphone. Nowadays, there are so many great photos that it doesn't matter which one of these sites, you get good quality photos from them. So just be wary on when you are on one of these more expensive websites that there's always the possibility of finding, if not that exact photo, something almost identical to it on a much cheaper site. So find the keywords that are associated with the photo. Most stock photo sites will show you the keywords that they have. Find those keywords and use them to search on the cheaper site. And as I said, you can find, and in my case, I found almost the identical photo and it saved me $50 of having to buy that photo. So that's this week's tip of the week. And now, evaluating your graphic design business. You know how the saying goes, stop and smell the roses? Well, what that means is that sometimes we're so busy and we're so focused that we don't take the time to notice the little things that are around us. And that's a great lesson for life, but it's also a great lesson for your business. Now, whether you're just starting out or if you've been in business for several years now, it's always a good idea to occasionally stop and evaluate your business. Now, evaluating your business will do several things. It'll help you focus in on your strengths. It'll help you identify your weaknesses, and it'll help you streamline your workflow and make you more efficient and possibly a better designer. So, what sort of things do you look for when you evaluate your design business? Well, in reality, every business is different. So it'll really depend on you. You will have to kind of come up with the things, the ideas, the different aspects of your business that need evaluating. But there are some things that kind of are universal. And that's what I'm going to talk about today is what bases you should look at. As I said, there's lots of things that you can evaluate. But here are some that just about every business will have. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is your business structure. Now, what I mean by your business structure is whether you're a freelancer, maybe you have a full-time job and you do some graphic design on the side, so you're freelancing. Maybe you're a sole proprietor, or maybe you have an incorporated business. Well, looking at those different things, maybe you're a freelancer, you're doing some stuff on the side, but you know what? You're picking up more and more work, and maybe you should really register a business if you don't already have something registered. So maybe you'll want to register as a sole proprietor, or maybe you're a sole proprietor. You've been running that way, but now things are really picking up and money is good. Your business is growing. Maybe it's time for you to incorporate. So that's one thing you should evaluate is your business structure. Maybe you are a great designer, but you hate dealing with clients. You dread that part of it. But you can sit all day long designing beautiful, wondrous things. Maybe it's time for you to look for a partner, somebody that can manage the business while you do the design. So all that comes down to your business structure. Is it time for you to change? Maybe you're incorporated and it's too much. You're paying these yearly fees for a corporation and you realize that, I did this at the beginning because everybody was saying I need to incorporate, but really I don't need to do this. Maybe you can dissolve that corporation and just continue as a sole proprietor, which is much cheaper. There are so many different things in how your business is structured in that sense that maybe from time to time, stop and evaluate them. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is your business name. Now, back in episode 41 of Resourceful Designer, called Naming Your Graphic Design Business, I talked about the pros and cons of using your own name for your business or coming up with a fancy name for your business, or fancy, just a name for your business opposed to your own name. And not that one of these is better than the other. They're just different takes on how to do it. Well, maybe it's time to look. Like if you've been running your business under your own name for several years now, and who knows, maybe you got a partner, or maybe your business is growing and you're starting to think about possibly expanding and hiring people. Maybe it's time to actually switch and name your business, or vice versa. Maybe you've named your business since the beginning and you find that it's not really doing anything for you. Maybe it's time to get rid of that name and just work under your own name. Maybe you think you'll get more exposure that way. As I said, there isn't a right or wrong way to do this, but from time to time, it might be a good idea to just look on, is the name that you're using, that you're working under, working for you, or should it be changed? Now, another thing you can evaluate is your rates. Now, back in episode 26 of the podcast, Raise Your Prices to Get Better Graphic Design Work, I talked about how your rates can actually determine what type of clients you get. Just like there's some people that would prefer go out to a fast food restaurant and other people that would prefer go and sit down at a nice fancy restaurant, the same goes for design clients. There are people out there that want to find the cheapest price on design. And then there's other people out there that are willing to pay hundreds of dollars per hour for the right designer. And the thing is as you raise your rates, your clientele will change. The more you charge, people say that, if I raise my rates too much, I'll alienate some people. Yes, you will. But you will also start attracting the people that are looking in that price range. That's the same way that people go to shop at these high-end clothing stores and other people shop at Walmart. You have different statuses of businesses and different structures involved, and they will look for different people. So if you price yourself at a certain area, those are the clients you're going to get. By raising your rates, you will get other clients. Now, evaluate your rates on a regular basis to see, can I raise my rates? Is it going to affect anything? And am I going to get better clients? And if you're not getting anything, maybe it has to go the other way. If you live in an area and you're trying to get a lot of local business and nobody is willing to pay your high rates, maybe it's time to lower your rates, or maybe it's time to expand your area of influence. Instead of just dealing locally, maybe you want to try to expand where your business operates out of. I don't mean your home or all that, but I just mean if you are working only with clients in your local community, maybe you want to expand to nearby communities as well and see if that works for you. Now, along the same lines of your rates is your pricing structure. Now back in episode 11, pricing strategies for your graphic design business, which I have to say is one of my most popular episodes. It's been shared and it's been downloaded almost, I think it's my second or third most popular episode of Resourceful Designer. And understandably, it is a great source for information on how to structure your pricing. So if you are pricing currently, you just charge by the hour. Everything you do is based on the amount of time you spend on a job, regardless of what the job is. Maybe it's time to start look at project-based pricing, where instead of saying, well, I'm going to do a logo, and if I spend 2 hours, I'll charge you for 2 hours work. If I spend 5 hours, I'll charge you for 5 hours work. Maybe you can do project-based pricing where you say a logo is going to cost $500, $1,000, $5,000, whatever it is that you set. And that's your price for a logo. And there's a lot of designers that work that way. They have a set fee to work on something. They're going to design a logo. It's worth this much, or starts at this much. You can say, I work on logos starting at $500. Some people do websites saying, Yes, we'll design any custom websites. Prices start at X amount of dollars. Or you can go to value-based pricing. And back in episode 11, I talked about how in value-based pricing, maybe you're designing a logo and you have your client is a mom and pop corner store. They just bought a corner store. They want a logo for the corner store. Well, you're going to charge them a certain amount for the logo. Now, if you have a Fortune 500 company that approaches you and say, we need a logo for our financial investment firm that is globally, they have people all around the world or offices all around the world, we need a new logo. Obviously, they're going to get a lot more value out of the logo, so you can charge accordingly. You might charge $500 to the mom and pop, and you might charge $50,000 to the Fortune 500 company, even though both logos will take you the same amount of time to work on. It comes down to value. So evaluate your pricing structure, whether you need to work, you're charging by the hour, the project, or value-based pricing. Which one works for you? And if you want to know more about them, listen to episode 11 of the podcast. Now, all these episodes that I'm mentioning, they're all available in the feed. If you subscribe to the podcast, you can go back and listen to them again. But I'm going to include links to all of these in the show notes in case you want to go back to listen to some of these episodes. Because this is episode 65 I'm putting out. Well, episode 11 came out a couple of years ago. You might not remember that episode. So if it's something you need a refresher on, I'll include a link so you can get back to it. Or you can simply, any episode I mentioned, you can always get to it by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/episode and the number. So episode 1 through 65, all of them, you can get them easily by just typing in that. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your time. And you should evaluate whether you're using your time effectively. Now, way back in episode 4 of the podcast, entitled Superhero Syndrome, I talked about how some people feel that they have to do absolutely everything for their business. It's their business. It's their responsibility. They have to do it all. But no, in fact, you don't. You don't have to do it all. In fact, if you are doing it all, chances are your business will not succeed as much as if you are finding people to help you to do things. So are you using your time efficiently? Are you doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing or don't need to be doing or that other people could be doing? So evaluate that sort of thing. Also, when it comes to evaluating your time, is things like, are you spending too much time on social media? Are you spending time learning, watching webinars, taking courses for things that you might not necessarily need? Maybe you see this real great course on 3D printing and you decide to take it. Well, is there any reason, if you don't do 3D printing, is there any reason for you to actually take that course? Are you using your time efficiently and effectively? And if the answer is no, then eliminate that from your schedule. You don't need to be doing that when you could be spending your time doing other things. Now, along the same, trajectory as your time is the tasks that you're doing. Are there any tasks that you are doing that others could do? Now, just a few episodes ago, in episode 62 of the podcast, titled How to Use a Virtual Assistant for Your Graphic Design Business, I talked about how you can hire people to do different parts of your business. And that includes, even though I said in that episode, I don't necessarily consider the accountant and the lawyer as virtual assistants, but they fall into the same category. Instead of you doing all your bookkeeping and your taxes and that, you can hire somebody to do that stuff for you. But not just that, there could be other parts of your business. If you are given a big manuscript that somebody wants you to turn into a book or to design a book out of, and they give you a paper, maybe it's an old manuscript or something, and for some reason they don't have it typed out. Well, instead of you sitting there and typing out the whole thing, even if you are the world's fastest typer, maybe it's not the most efficient use of your time. So it's a task that you can have somebody else do. Hire somebody and get them to do it. So evaluate if there are tasks that you are doing for your business that others could be doing. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your marketing material. And whether or not, first of all, you have the proper marketing material for your business, and is your marketing material up to date? Look at some of your stuff, especially if you have printed things. Sometimes that can be outdated very quickly. I know I had a postcard that talked about custom coding websites and that, well, you know what? Even though I still can, I really don't want to do custom coding anymore. Now that I've discovered WordPress, I'll be honest, almost actually, I don't remember the last time I did a website that wasn't based on the WordPress platform. I like it. I'm good at it. I don't need to go back. Even though I'm capable of doing the coding, I don't want to go back to do that. So my marketing material that specifically says that I don't use these cookie cutter places, I do custom coding, they're outdated because I don't do that anymore. So look at your marketing material, look at your website, see if there's anything. Maybe there's services you're now offering that are not mentioned on your website. There was somebody, sorry, I don't remember who it was, but I was talking to somebody last year through Resourceful Designer, and I was looking at their website and they had said that they did something. I think they were talking about websites, that they were getting into doing websites. And when I went to look at their website, there was no mention on it. And I questioned, I says, well, you're trying to promote that you're doing websites, but there's no mention of it on your website. And they said, yeah, well, we haven't gotten around to updating it. Well, that's the sort of thing that you have to evaluate. If you're offering a service and you're not promoting it on your website, on your other material, maybe your business card, then maybe it's time to update those things. And don't worry, if you have a bunch of business cards or a bunch of flyers left over, don't say, well, I got to use them. You know what? There's nothing wrong with recycling them. The price of printing has gone down so much. When I got into business, I ordered 5,000 business cards. There was a special online place that was the minimum, but the price was incredible. And I ordered 5,000 business cards. Well, you know what? That box is sitting in my closet. I don't even know if I've used a quarter of that over the time. And one of these days, I'm going to go through and I'm going to say, you know what? I'm just going to throw these out, because I'm never going to go through all of them, and I needed to update stuff over time. So go through and evaluate your marketing material. It could be your logo. Maybe it's time to update your logo. Designs change, trends. Maybe you got really trendy and you used something that was the in design at the time, and now it's very passé. It looks old. Well, maybe it's time to update your logo, update your marketing material. So give it an evaluation. Read through your website, read through your marketing material, and update it if need be. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is for home-based graphic designers, which I know the majority of my listeners are. That's who I target. It might not be you, but maybe there's some stuff that this will still apply to. And that's, is there somebody in your household that can take on some of the chores that you would normally do? Like if you're a parent and you have kids, maybe you normally mow the lawn or you vacuum the house. Maybe that's something your kids can do, even if you pay them a couple of bucks to do it or above their allowance, or maybe make it part of their allowance. If they want to get paid, then they also have to vacuum or they have to mow the lawn or whatever. Back in episode 45 of the podcast, titled It's Okay for Graphic Designers to Ask for Help, I talked about this sort of thing where if there's stuff that takes away from your business. Now, I'm not saying hire somebody or get your kids to do something so that you can sit down and watch TV or go have a nap in the hammock out back while your kid's weeding the garden or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is things that might take away from your graphic design business. If you would be spending time, if you have a chore or something to do around the house, that if you weren't doing that, you would be working on your design business, working for clients and doing graphics, then see if there's somebody else that can help you. Now, if you don't have kids and maybe you don't have a spouse that can take on some of the chores or that, or is not willing, or maybe you live by yourself, then it's okay to hire people. And in fact, it should be a no-brainer that if it's going to take time away from your business, again, this is not so that you can watch TV or you can go sit in the pool or whatever. If it's going to take time away from your business, you should be able to hire people, because whatever rates you are charging, the person who comes to take care of your garden, the person that comes to shovel or snow or clear the snow out of your driveway, the person that comes to mow your lawn, the person that comes to wash your window, whoever these people are, you should be paying them much less than what you get on an hourly basis. And if you don't, if they are charging you more than you would actually make in an hour, then you definitely need to evaluate your rates, because there is no reason as a graphic designer, you should definitely be making more per hour than the gardener that'll come weed your garden for you. And these people are not that expensive. You can have somebody come in and vacuum your house on a weekly or bi-weekly basis or whatever, and they're not as expensive as people usually think. They think, oh, this person has a housekeeper, they must be rich. No, they don't have to be rich. They just have to be willing to say, if this person is going to come clean my house for me and charge me $20 per hour, well, I better make sure that during the time that they're doing that, I'm sitting at my computer making $50, $75, $100 an hour to justify that this person is doing some of the work for you. That's why they're there. Because if they weren't there, then you would be doing that work, in which case you're not making your 50, 75, 100 or more per hour. So evaluate your business and your lifestyle and see, is there somebody, either somebody in your household, a family member, or is there people you can hire to come in and do these things that would regularly take time away from your graphic design business? Now, the next thing I want to talk about is your hardware and your software. You need to evaluate them on a regular basis to determine whether they're sufficient for the job that you're trying to do. Now, I know for a fact that the iMac that I'm sitting in front of right now, even though it's still working, it is way outdated. I need a new computer. It's been giving me a lot of grief lately, but I know that Apple, at the time I'm recording this in March of 2017, there's rumors that Apple will be making an announcement next month in April. Now, I don't know if they're going to announce a new iMac. There's rumors, some places say they will, some places say they won't. Either way, the rumors state that by June, they will be announcing a new iMac. Now, I'm holding out because at this time, the current newest iMac available, and I'm definitely going in an iMac. I don't want to go to a laptop. I want another iMac. The newest available iMac is a 2015, which is already 2 years old. Even though it's the newest thing available, it's 2 years old. So I'm going to hold out as long as I can to get the newest model when it comes out. But that's something I've already evaluated. It's just, I know that it's not worth me investing that much money on a computer that's already 2 years old, even though it's the most recent one available. So look at your hardware. Maybe you're doing backups and your backup drives are not big enough. You know, you at the time you bought them, maybe you bought a 500 gig or a one terabyte drive, and you find that it's not enough. Well, the price of drives have dropped significantly in the last few years. Maybe it's time to get a bigger hard drive for your backup. Now, another thing you can also look is whether or not there's other options available. If you're backing up, you've got an Apple Time Machine, which are wonderful. If you don't have a time machine set up and you're running a Mac, you definitely should. Whether you get an Apple one or just any external hard drive, definitely set yourself up a time machine. But that might not be the most proficient way for backing yourself up. Yes, it is very convenient, but if something happens to your computer, there's a good possibility something happens up to your backup as well. So maybe you should invest in some sort of service such as Backblaze. That's the one I recommend to back up your computer. And if you want more information about Backblaze, resourcefuldesigner.com/Backblaze. That's my affiliate link. If you do decide to sign up, just let you know that I will make a small commission if you do sign up through there. But the only reason I support them is because I've been using them and I believe in them. And they're not that expensive. It's just a couple of dollars a month and they back up your entire computer. And what's great about a thing like Backblaze is if something ever happens to your computer, whether your computer completely crashes, it fries, or it gets stolen or some natural disaster and it's destroyed, you can easily get everything re-downloaded to your computer. Or if you want it even faster, they can overnight ship you a physical hard drive that'll help you get your new computer, whenever you purchase a new computer, get it up and running and match your old computer very fast. So that's something to look into. The same thing with if you do websites, maybe the plugins, there are a lot of free plugins, but there are a lot of premium plugins out there. And sometimes it might be a matter of purchasing some of these things or upgrading. There's a lot of people, like say Elegant Themes, which is probably the themes that I recommend the most if you're running a WordPress website. They have over 80 different themes to choose from. My favorite is the Divi theme, which you can do just about anything with. It's absolutely amazing, but they have a whole bunch of other themes available. Well, Elegant Themes, which you can get to at resourcefuldesigner.com/elegant themes, and they have different levels of memberships. Now, I bought the lifetime membership because I know that, and I bought it years ago, I never have to pay for anything that they put out, any updates, anything. I never have to pay for anything because I bought a lifetime membership. I can use their themes on as many client websites as I want. Where some people, they buy the lower memberships and then they got to pay on a regular basis. So maybe it's time to evaluate, and is it worth buying a lifetime membership for something? Pay a little bit extra up front, but then never have to pay for again. Now, reversing that thought, maybe there's software or things that you're paying for that you don't necessarily need. I was talking at the beginning in my tip of the week about stock photo sites. Maybe you're paying for different stock photo sites. I mentioned that there's some that, there's one I pay $50 a year, and I can download as many photos as I want. Well, if at the end of the year, and I've paid $50 and I look and I've only downloaded, say, 5 photos from that website, then really it wasn't worth me spending $50 on that site. But if I spend $50 and I'm downloading 50 or 100 photos a year, then it is worth it for me to be part of that site. Another example is, say, I'll use Adobe's stock site. Stock.adobe.com, I think is the website. That one there, I am a member of that because I have credits. I used to be part of Dollar Photo Club, which was a great website. They had lots of great photos, all at $1 each. You had to become you had to be invited in. You couldn't just go join that website. You had to be invited in to be a member. And they were eventually bought out by Adobe. But any credits that you had automatically got transferred to Adobe. So now on Adobe's stock site, I have 50 credits or something like that left. And it's 1 credit per photo. So I can download, say, 50 photos from that site. Once I'm used up all those credits, I do not plan on subscribing to Adobe stock photo sites because I find them too expensive. So it's one of the sites. There are a lot of great stock photo sites out there that I won't join because I don't know if I'll get my money's worth out of it. There are some others that over time I've had memberships to, and I've let those memberships go because I found I wasn't getting enough value. There's so many great websites out there, stock photo sites out there that are much cheaper, that it's not worth paying for all these other ones. Now, as far as software goes, I was mentioning Adobe. Well, that's something most designers are subscribed to Adobe's Creative Cloud. Well, if you don't use Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, and whatever other Adobe software, if you are not using those on a regular basis, and when I say regular, I mean, if you don't use Photoshop on a daily basis or almost every day, then maybe it's not worth actually having it. There are great substitutions out there that are much, much cheaper. The Affinity software, Affinity Photo, which is an alternative to Photoshop, and Affinity Designer, which is an alternative to Illustrator, they run in Canada here, they run $70. I think it's $69 for a one-time fee. That's not monthly, that's not yearly. You pay it for a one-time fee. And those software can do almost everything that the Adobe software can do. So why pay monthly or yearly for the Adobe stuff where you can pay a one-time, get this software and do just as much? I mean, if you work in Photoshop day in, day out, and you do almost everything and all the features, great. But if all you use Photoshop for is to open up a couple of photos here, maybe crop a photo and maybe adjust a few little colors, then you might not need Photoshop. Photoshop would be overkill. You can get away with some other software. So look at that, evaluate the software and the things. And not just that, say magazines and other parts of your business that's costing you money. I used to have a subscription to Mac Life magazine. And the only reason I had a subscription to it is because I always had a subscription to it. It was originally given to me as a gift. And eventually, after that subscription ran out, I just kept renewing it. And it came to a point where it was just automatic. Oh, the renewal came in, I would pay for it. But then one day I was cleaning out my desk. And if you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard me say how my desk, I keep a messy desk. It's just who I am. I look around here and I've got all sorts of stuff on my desk, from receipts, from books, from papers that I don't know what. And every once in a while, I'll go through a spurt where I'll clean off the desk. Well, about a year or so ago, I started cleaning off my desk. And I found, I think it was 6 or 7 issues of Mac Life magazine still sealed in the cellophane they came in. Now, I know when I went to the mailbox and I would get these magazines, I would look at them through the cellophane and go, oh, this looks like a good one. Oh, look at the different articles they have listed. Great. This looks really good. I'd put it on my desk and I'd forget about it. And they would just sit there. And at this point, I was cleaning off my desk and I found, as I said, it was 6 or 7 issues and I hadn't looked at them. And I realized I don't remember the last time I actually flipped open one of these magazines. So why am I paying for it? So whenever it came time to renew it, I evaluated and said, it's not worth it. Cancel that subscription. I did, or I let it expire. And so I no longer get that, and I don't feel like I miss it. So if there's things that you're paying for, stock photo sites, software subscriptions, magazines, anything else that you pay for, evaluate. Is that money you really need to pay for? So evaluate the hardware and the software of your business and see whether it's sufficient or maybe it's overkill. Now, there's two more things I want to talk about in this week's topic. And the first one is there any part of your business that you no longer want to do? Think about that. Are you a generalist? Like I'm a generalist. I do everything. I will design trade show booths. I'll design posters. I'll design greeting cards, stationery, logos, branding packages, websites. I'll do it all. But I like doing that. Maybe you're somebody who doesn't. Maybe you're somebody who started off when you first got in business, you were trying to get whatever business you can. So you would take on all this work. Didn't matter what the client or what the person asked of you. You needed the business. You needed the income. But now that things are going and your business has progressed and you're growing and you've established yourself, well, maybe you decide that I don't like doing print design. I love doing websites. I love doing anything digital, web banners and that sort of thing. Maybe I don't like doing business cards and stationery or posters. So eliminate that from your business. Just simply say, I don't do that anymore. Maybe you can make an exception for some existing clients that you've done in the past. But if a new client comes up and says, I need a poster done, you can just say, sorry, I don't do posters anymore. Maybe recommend them to somebody else or whatever. But look, is there any part of your business that you no longer want to do? Could be the opposite. Maybe you tried to get into web design because you knew that there was a field or potential there, but you're not really good at it or you don't like doing it. Well, you don't have to do that. You can just say no. There's parts of your business that you no longer want to do. You can also do the opposite and look and see, is there anything that you're not currently doing that you want to do? Back in episode 49 of the podcast, Print Brokering to Supplement Your Graphic Design Business, I talk about running a print brokering service. So if you do print design, you can also offer to broker the printing. A lot of clients don't want to have to deal with the printer, so you offer to do that for them and you make a commission off of it. So is there something, maybe you've never done that before, but you're thinking, hey, I can make some money. I'm designing all these posters, these flyers, these business cards, and I'm giving them to the client to take to the printer. Well, why don't I make some extra money on the side by doing the brokering of the printing? So maybe that's something you can get into. Evaluate your business and see if there's any part of it that you don't want to do anymore, or if there's anything, maybe you've heard another designer talk about something and you want to get into it. Great resource for this is the Resourceful Designer Facebook group. People in there talk about their businesses. Well, maybe you're part of the group and you hear somebody mention that, oh, I do this. I mentioned last episode about t-shirt designs and how I like to design t-shirts. That's one of the things I like doing whenever I'm doing personal projects. Well, I've had a bunch of people reach out to me and start asking me about that because it's not something they do, but they kind of pique their interest and go, I'm interested in that, Mark. Can you give me a little bit more information? So is there anything that you're not doing that you may want to do? Evaluate your business in that aspect. And the last thing I want to talk about is there a new direction you want to take your business in? Now, this one comes from when I looked through my list and I saw episode 54, Should You Find a Graphic Design Niche? And this episode 54, is the most popular episode of Resourceful Designer. It's the most downloaded episode that I have and the most shared on social media. So is that something you want to do? Do you want to focus your business on one direction? Do you want to forget everything else and just say, I only want to work on t-shirts. I only want to do t-shirt designs, or I only want to do websites. That's all I'm going to do. I'm going to be a web designer from this point forward. Or I only want to work with schools. I'm only going to work with schools. I'm only going to work with nonprofits. I'm only going to work with the food industry, whatever. In episode 54, I mentioned Molly, who is part of the Facebook group, who her specialty, her niche is the dog industry. Dog breeders, people that bring their dogs to dog shows. She does a lot of stuff, or almost everything, I would say, from what I understand, she deals with them. I'm sure she does a few things here and there, but that's the main focus of her business. So is there a new direction you want to take your business in? Maybe you haven't thought of that. You haven't wanted to niche down, or you didn't think about it. But if you listen to episode 54, where I talk about that, how you can focus down into a certain niche and become, just by being there, you become the expert in that niche. Think about it. If you knew somebody that was a dog breeder and they were looking for somebody to design an ad, they want to put an ad in a magazine and they need an ad designed, would you say, well, yeah, you can go to this graphic designer over here that does all sorts of different things, or you can go to Molly, who specializes in dealing with dog breeders and designing ads for dog breeders? Well, which one's going to be more enticing to them? Now, whether you know Molly's capabilities or not, automatically, because of that niche, she is deemed an expert in it. So by niching down, and you can be part of multiple niches, as I mentioned again in that episode. And sorry, I keep picking on Molly, but it's just such a wonderful niche. I'm a dog person myself. I've got a couple of dogs. I used to have 3. One of them passed away. We have 2 dogs now. So we are dog people. So that's kind of why I like to pick on Molly a little bit. I don't really know her personally outside of the Facebook group and that, but it's just a wonderful niche. So I like to use her as an example. But I mentioned in episode 54 that she has got that niche covered. She's doing all this stuff, but there's nothing stopping her from also using that expertise, the knowledge she knows out of that niche, and applying it to something else. She's been working so long in the dog industry. Really, what's different about the cat industry? There are people that bring cats to cat shows. There are people that breed cats. She can do that. And then what about horses? What about cows? What about pigs? There's shows for all of those things as well. There's people that breed them, and there's magazines for them that require ads. Once she gets one niche accomplished and become the expert, it's really easy to take what you know and move it over to another niche. I mentioned in the podcast before that I knew a lady that did websites, but she only did websites for dentists. And she became an expert. Dentists would refer her because they knew that's all she does is dentist websites. So when they go to a conference or they're talking to fellow dentists in another city or whatever, they will say, well, you need a website? This person here, not this person here is a great web designer. And the other dentist might say, oh, that's great, but I know some web designers as well. When they say this person is a great web designer who only specializes in websites for dentists, the other dentist says, well, I know a web designer, but he doesn't specialize for dentists. Maybe I'll call this person because they specialize for dentists. So think about that. Is there a niche you want or are thinking of getting into, or a direction? And again, you don't have to pigeon-toe yourself in to that niche. You can say, I am an expert in this part while still doing other stuff. Just because somebody says they're an expert at websites for dentists doesn't mean they can't do a website for the local mechanic, or they can't do a website for the restaurant down the street. No, they can do whatever they want, but they've positioned themselves to be an expert in one niche. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about this week, is taking the time to evaluate your business, the structure, your pricing, your naming. Are there tasks or things you do in your business that you shouldn't be doing? Is there stuff that you're not doing that you want to do? Is there help you can get? Is there whatever? Stop and look at your business and see, is there anything that should change in order to make it a more proficient, a more effective business? Because over time, things change. I know that the business I'm running today is not the same business I started 11 years ago. Things have changed because at certain points over the years, I stopped to evaluate my business and decided that things are going to change. There was a time where anytime somebody would come up to me for a website, I would give them every reason under the sun why they should not use WordPress. I was so against WordPress when I was custom coding websites, because to me, WordPress was a cop-out. It was using templates because they were the themes, and it was not true design. But then as stuff progressed and I started to see what people were doing with WordPress, and I started experimenting it with myself, I wasn't using it for clients. In fact, the very first time I used WordPress was for one of my podcasts that I was doing, because podcast websites. WordPress just works perfect for podcasts. So I started getting into it, and then I started realizing what can be done. And now that's what I do. It's when I do a website, as I said, 99% of the time I'm doing it in WordPress. But go back 5 years ago, and I would have told somebody, do not use WordPress for your website. I evaluated my business and realized that no, that has to change. And now I'm doing it completely differently. So take the time, look at your business. It doesn't take long. You can take a few minutes out of the day, but do it on a regular basis. Set up a once a year, maybe on the anniversary you started your business. Stop and think, is there anything that I can do? Do a business evaluation. Because remember, we only have a fixed number of hours in our lives to spend on business, not to mention the rest of the things we do. There's only a fixed amount of time we have to spend on our business. So is there anything that you can do differently to make your business more proficient and make yourself a better designer? So that's this week's topic. Now, I would love to hear from you to know whether you've ever ran your own business evaluation, or if this podcast has piqued your interest and that you're going to run a business evaluation. If you have run one, what sort of outcome came of it? Was there anything you changed after doing it? Or is there things now, as you start thinking about it, that you realize should change with your business? If you have any of that, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 65 and leave me a comment for this episode and let me know. And now it's time for this week's question. Now, before I get to the question, I just want to let you know that my mailbag is starting to run empty again. I only have a couple of questions left to share on the podcast. So now is the perfect time. If you want your question answered, please visit resourcefuldesigner.com/feedback and submit the form there with your question, and I will get to it as soon as possible and try to answer it on the podcast. I'm waiting to hear from you. Now, this week's question came from Sarah. She says, "Hi. For the last 10 years, I've worked for myself as a freelance writer and communications consultant, usually with a basic design work thrown in the mix. In the last couple of years, I started to do a lot more document layout, which definitely incorporates design, and I want to get more into the design side of things. I'm trained in InDesign, although I've never had any formal graphic design training. I plan to take some courses in the next year to improve my skills. I live in a small town, so there are only a few people here who have these types of skills. But it's been a very natural progress for me to do writing, editing, and design. I'm just wondering, how common do you think this situation is? Are there other designers out there who also do writing and other communication services? And vice versa? Also, where does document layout fit into the graphic design world? Any info would be much appreciated. Thank you. Really love the show." Well, thank you for your question, Sarah. And congratulations on wanting to improve yourself. You mentioned that you want to take some courses over the next year to improve your skills. Well, kudos to you for wanting to do that. Now, just to, you don't mention what sort of courses you want to take. I just want to let you know, if it's actually going to a school, I've found over the years, things have really transitioned, and you can get some really, really good courses online these days. Places like lynda.com, creativelive.com, or udemy.com. All these places offer really, really good courses for you to learn the skills. And you just go in and take the ones that you need. So if that's the sort of thing, then great. But if it's not, if you are thinking of actually going to a school and taking maybe night courses and that, your time might be better served, and you might save yourself some money by taking some of these online courses, which are just as good, if not even better. Now, as to your question on whether people do the sort of thing that you're asking, yes, designers are often called to do stuff. I'm a graphic designer, but I often do writing for my clients. Now, I won't go writing large documents in that, but I will often come up with stuff. If I'm doing a flyer and maybe there's, I want some sort of saying somewhere, or there's a place where I think something's called for, I will often write something up myself and just present it to the client. I'll often do this for a website where they want some sort of splash image on the front. Well, I'll throw something in there as, I don't know, sometimes it's something funny to catch the eye or something informative about the business, and I'll write that myself and then show it to the client. And sometimes they like it, sometimes they don't, whatever the case, but I will often do that. Now, I won't, as I mentioned, go writing large documents or that, but there's nothing wrong with adding your writing skill to your graphic design. Now, there are some designers out there that want absolutely everything. If the client wants 2 words added, they won't do it themselves unless the client has written them down and said, these are the 2 words we want. And there are other designers, as I mentioned, like myself, who I've got no problem looking at something and going, there's something missing here. I'm going to throw this in, or, I'm going to create a tagline for this company because they don't really have one, especially startups and stuff like that. I'll often do something like that. Case in point, I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast how I'm doing these new scorecards for my local golf course. Well, in the design, I was designing something with some photos and their logo and a nice. Anyways, I won't get into the details on the design, but there was a space there, and I said there's something missing there. So I just quickly added in some. I found a really nice font that went well with the design, and I just added "Enjoy your time on the links." Because the links, if you're not aware, the links is what they call a golf course. So I just added in, enjoy your time on the links. Now, you could say, well, that wasn't really writing. But yeah, it was, because the client didn't ask for that. I threw it in. And when I showed it to the client, they loved it. And they said, that's great. We love that. So yes, there are a lot of people that do that sort of thing. And if you do have those services, if you start saying that you know the design side and the writing side, it just makes you a more rounded person and a more desirable person to hire. So never worry about having too many skills. It's when you don't have enough skills that you start worrying about. Now, as to where does document layout fit into the graphic design world, anything that has to do with printing also has to do with document layout. I mean, the only thing that you say is if there's a logo, the logo isn't really document layout, but as soon as you apply that logo to a letterhead, business card, a flyer, anything, it's document layout. And there's a skill involved with that on how to lay things out so that it flows with the eye, how the positioning, how the flow. And it's funny how some people, I'll have people, like I know some people that they don't necessarily want to hire me for their work, but they'll show me something that they did, and I'll come back and nitpick their design, and they'll come back and they'll go, wow, Mark, I never would have noticed those sort of things. Simple things like, you have the logo and you have some text. Well, make sure that the 2 line up, say on the left-hand margin. Don't put the text over a little bit more. Like if the logo and the text line up visually, it'll make a difference. It's the sort of thing that you learn with time, or you learn with taking courses, as you say you want to do, Sarah, and just experimenting. There are so many designers out there. We've got a profession that allows people to become graphic designers by either taking a course, or there are many, many great designers out there that never set foot in a classroom. They became designers on their own. They just started developing the skills. They started playing with the programs and learning things. And over time, they would develop these skills. Now, as I said, some of these things are things that you should really be taught. Not in a classroom, but maybe it's just reading a book. Maybe it's taking an online course. Stuff about white space, stuff about flow and placement on the page, and how an image, sometimes how to crop an image so that it looks proper, because not every photograph is cropped properly for the layout that you want. And it's not just a matter of just saying, I'm just going to cut, an inch off the side here. Well, maybe when you have a photo, and instead of cutting so much off the right-hand side, maybe you want to cut 80% off the right-hand side, but 20% off the left-hand side, because the photo itself would be cropped better that way. And that's the sort of thing that you have to learn over time. Now, I know I'm kind of deviating off of your question here, but it's just to show that you don't have to be a school-trained graphic designer to succeed in this industry. There are many, many great designers out there who have never been to school. Now, in my opinion, I think all designers should go to school, because there's some stuff you learn in school that you will never learn elsewhere, or it's very difficult to learn elsewhere. But it's not to say that some people are not very successful at what they do, never having set foot in school. But you've already mentioned, Sarah, how you're going to be doing some training, which kudos to you for doing that. And with your skill as a freelance writer and communications consultant, I think that's just more feathers in your cap, and you're going to make a great business out of that if that's what you want to do. And people, given the choice, if they're going to hire somebody that just does page layout and somebody that does page layout, but also can do the writing and other stuff, then chances are they're going to hire that person, which will be you. So good luck to you, Sarah. I wish you all the best. Love to hear how things progress. Drop me an email sometime. Let me know how courses are going or what you're learning. I would love to hear from you. Now, before I go, I want to share another iTunes review I got. This one here came in from Colbig 2009 in the USA. This is awesome and insightful podcasts. I stumbled upon this podcast about 3 days ago, and I've almost listened to all the episodes. This podcast is so helpful with getting my own business up and running. Mark's insights, knowledge, and resources are priceless, and the fact that this is free information is beyond amazing as well. Thank you, Mark. Well, thank you for that lovely review, Colbig 2009. I love getting these things. And you know what? I've received reviews from Australia, the USA, Canada, the UK, India, Slovakia, and Sweden. And that is amazing. Resourceful Designer is global. Now, if you don't live in one of those countries that I just mentioned, I would love to get a review from you. I would love to see the Resourceful Designer community grow to truly be worldwide. There are over 150 iTunes stores globally, and I've received reviews from 7 of them. So if you are listening from a country that is not Australia, USA, Canada, UK, India, Slovakia, or Sweden, please head on over to resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes. That'll redirect you to the iTunes store in your area where you can leave me a review. And I will get that review. It doesn't matter what iTunes store it gets put into, I will end up getting that review because I've got a service that sends them to me. Now, that is not to say that if you are part of one of those 7 countries, I don't want to get your review. Yes, of course I want to get your review. I love getting these reviews. And what these reviews do for the podcast, they don't help in the rankings on iTunes. But what they do help with is when somebody comes to iTunes and they start looking up podcasts, like maybe somebody says, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a new graphic designer, or I'm just starting a business and I want to look up graphic design podcasts, and they see the ones that are listed there, they might say, well, I don't know which one to get. I don't know any of these. But they'll start reading through the reviews, and those reviews are what's helpful for them to decide. And when they look at my reviews and they say, well, all these people are saying great things and how much this podcast helped them, I'm going to give it a try. And that's why I love getting these reviews. Plus, I love sharing them with you, and it makes me feel all warm and fuzzy when I hear all these nice things said about me. So if you haven't already left me a review, regardless of what country you're in, but as I said, if you're not one of those 7 I mentioned, I would love to add more countries onto this list. But regardless of where you are, I would love to get your review. And you can do so by visiting resourcefuldesigner.com/iTunes. Now, I want to remind you of the tip of the week this week, which was simply when you're looking at stock photo sites, especially the more expensive ones, take a few minutes to look at some of the less expensive ones just to make sure you're not overspending on a photo that you can get almost the identical photo, if not the identical photo, on a cheaper website. So that was the tip of the week. Now, next week's podcast, I'm going to be talking about the differences between a task and a project. So I already have that episode almost all written out already. I started putting it together and I just kept going and going and going. So I have that one almost ready to record as is. And I really look forward to talking to you about that. It's going to be a great topic. Now, in the meantime, please share this podcast with a fellow graphic designer. If you know anybody in the graphic design industry or any creative field that could benefit from this podcast, please share it with them. Send them to resourcefuldesigner.com/subscribe. And all the different methods to subscribe, whether you're on iPhone and Android, whatever, they're all listed there in very convenient way for them to subscribe to the podcast. But we'll call it a day. That'll be the episode for this week. I hope you learned something this week or you got something out of the episode. And I look forward to talking to you next week. Until then, I wish you all the best in your graphic design business. And as always, until then, I am Mark Decote, wishing you all the best in your graphic design business. And as always, reminding you to stay creative.
Thanks for listening to the Resourceful Designer podcast at resourcefuldesigner.com.